What about the device side and sort of, you mentioned sort of the models that can fit on a phone. So obviously, whether that's an LLM or some SLM or something, I'm sure you're thinking about that. But then does the device itself change? I mean, does it need to be as expensive as an iPhone?
I'm super interested in this. I love like great new form factors of computing. And it feels like with every major technological advance, a new thing becomes possible. Phones are unbelievably good. So I think the threshold is like very high here. Like what, like I think like I personally think an iPhone is like the greatest piece of technology humanity has ever made. It's really a wonderful product.
What comes after it? Like
I don't know. I mean, that was what I was saying. It's so good that to get beyond it, I think the bar is like quite high.
Well, you've been working with Johnny Ive on something, right?
We've been discussing ideas, but I don't like if I knew.
Is it that it has to be more complicated or actually just much, much cheaper and simpler?
Well, almost everyone's willing to pay for a phone anyway. So if you could like make a way cheaper device, I think the barrier to carry a second thing or use a second thing is pretty high. So I don't think, given that we're all willing to pay for phones, or most of us are, I don't think cheaper is the answer.
Different is the answer then?
Would there be like a specialized chip that would run on the phone that was really good at powering a phone size AI model?
Probably, but the phone manufacturers are going to do that for sure. That doesn't necessitate a new device. I think you'd have to like find some really different interaction paradigm that the technology enables. And if I knew what it was, I would be excited to be working on it right now. But
you have voice working right now in the app. In fact, I set my action button on my phone to go directly to ChatGPT's voice app, and I use it with my kids, and they love it. Talking to it, it's got latency issues, but it's really great.
We'll get that better. And I think voice is a hint to whatever the next thing is. Like if you can get voice interaction to be really good, I think that feels like a different way to use a computer. But again,
what's the
like
blocker with that, by the way? Like why is it not responsive? And it feels like a CB, like over. It's really annoying to use, in that way, but it's also brilliant when it gives you the right answer.
We are working on that. It's so clunky right now. It's slow. It's like kind of doesn't feel very smooth or authentic or organic. Like we'll get all that to be much better.
What about computer vision? I mean, they have glasses, or maybe you could wear a pendant. I mean, you take the combination of visual or video data, combine it with voice, and now the AI knows everything that's happening around you.
Super powerful to be able to like the multimodality of saying like, hey, ChatGPT, what am I looking at? Or like, what kind of plant is this? I can't quite tell. That's obvious. That's another, I think, like hint, but whether people want to wear glasses or like hold up something when they want that, like there's a bunch of just like the sort of like societal interpersonal issues here are all very complicated about wearing a computer on your face.
We saw that with Google Glass. People got punched in the face in the mission. Started a lot of fights.
I forgot about that. So I think it's like,
what are the apps that could be unlocked if AI was sort of ubiquitous on people's phones? Do you have a sense of that, or what would you want to see built?
I think what I want is just this always on, like super low friction thing where I can either by voice or by text or ideally like some other, it just kind of knows what I want, have this like constant thing helping me throughout my day that's got like as much context on as possible. It's like the world's greatest assistant. And it's just this like thing working to make me better and better. There's like a, I know when you hear people like talk about the AI future, they imagine there's sort of two different approaches, and they don't sound that different, but I think they're like very different for how we'll design the system in practice. There's I want an extension of myself. I want like a ghost or an alter ego or this thing that really like is me, is acting on my behalf, is responding to emails, not even telling me about it, is sort of like, it becomes more me and is me. And then there's this other thing, which is like, I want a great senior employee. it may get to know me very well. I may delegate it. You can like have access to my email and I'll tell you the constraints, but I think of it as this like separate entity. And I personally like the separate entity approach better and think that's where we're going to head. And so in that sense, the thing is not you, but it's like a always available, always great, super capable assistant, executive.
It's an agent in a way, like it's out there working on your behalf and understands what you want and anticipates what you want, is what I'm reading into what you're saying.
I think there'd be agent-like behavior, but there's like a difference between a senior employee and an agent.
Yeah.
And like I want it, if I think of like one of the things that I like about a senior employee is they'll push back on me. They will sometimes not do something I ask, or there sometimes will say like, I can do that thing if you want, but if I do it, here's what I think would happen, and then this and then that, and are you really sure? I definitely want that kind of vibe, which not just like this thing that I give a task and it blindly does.
It can reason. Yeah.
Yeah, and push back.
It can reason. It has like the kind of relationship with me that I would expect out of a really competent person that I worked with, which is different from like a sycophant.
Yeah.
The thing in that world where if you have this like Jarvis-like thing that can reason, what do you think it does to products that you use today where the interface is very valuable? So for example, if you look at an Instacart or if you look at an Uber or if you look at a DoorDash, these are not services that are meant to be pipes that are just providing a set of APIs to a smart set of agents that ubiquitously work on behalf of 8 billion people. What do you think has to change in how we think about how apps need to work, of how this entire infrastructure of experiences need to work in a world where you're agentically interfacing to the world?
I'm actually very interested in designing a world that is equally usable by humans and by AIs. So I like the interpretability of that. I like the smoothness of the handoffs. I like the ability that we can provide feedback or whatever. So, DoorDash could just expose some API to my future AI assistant and they could go put the order in and whatever. Or I could say like, I could be holding my phone and I could say, okay, AI assistant, like you put in this order on DoorDash, please. And I could like watch the app open and see the thing clicking around and I could say, hey, no, not this. Or like, there's something about designing a world that is usable equally well by humans and AIs that I think is an interesting concept.
And
same reason I'm like more excited about humanoid robots than sort of robots of like very other shapes. The world is very much designed for humans, and I think we should absolutely keep it that way. Mm-hmm. And a shared interface is nice.
So you see voice, chat, that modality kind of gets rid of apps. You just ask it for sushi. It knows sushi you liked before. It knows what you don't like and does its best shot at doing it.
It's hard for me to imagine that we just go to a world totally where you say like, hey, ChatGPT, order me sushi. And it says, okay, do you want it from this restaurant? What kind, what time, whatever. I think visual user interfaces are super good for a lot of things. And it's hard for me to imagine like a world where you never look at a screen and just use voice mode only. But I can't imagine that for a lot of things.
Yeah, I mean, Apple tried with Siri. Like, supposedly you can order an Uber automatically with Siri. I don't think anybody's ever done it because why would you take the risk of not looking
the
at your
quality,
phone?
to your point, the quality is not good. But when the quality is good enough, you'll actually prefer it just because it's just lighter weight. You don't have to take your phone out. You don't have to search for your app and press it. And it automatically logged you out. Oh, hold on, log back in. Oh, TFA. It's a whole pain in the ass.
It's like setting a timer with Siri. I do every time because it works really well and it's great. And I don't need more information.
Exactly.
But ordering an Uber, like I want to see the prices for a few different options. I want to see how far away it is. I want to see like maybe even where they are on the map because I might walk somewhere. I get a lot more information I think in less time by looking at that order the Uber screen than I would if I had to do that all through the audio channel.
I like your idea of watching it happen. That's kind of cool.
I think there will just be like, there are different interfaces we use for different tasks, and I think that'll keep going.